This is IGN.
Amateur hour, but in a good way. This is your IGN review of MLB The Show 25 by Justin Carais. I don't envy the work it takes to keep an annual series like MLB The Show going. There's so much to do and perilously little time to do it in, whether that's adding new features, fixing the things people didn't like, or writing and producing an entire new season of the Negro Leagues. It's especially hard when all that time and effort often gets distilled down to a single question. Is it worth upgrading from last year? Thanks in large part to fundamental changes to the way the Road to the Show and Diamond Dynasty modes work, MLB The Show 25 answers that question with a resounding yes. The actual baseball hasn't changed a lot this year, which I don't mind, but there are some nice tweaks throughout. For starters, recent changes like two-way players, adjustments to shift rules, and the pitch clock are all fully incorporated at this point. There are some new QuickTime events that can happen when you're locked into controlling a single player, rather than the whole team, the most notable of which is a new swim move to avoid tags. I was a little nervous that it would make stealing bases too easy, but the prompt only seems to come up occasionally and is rare enough to feel more like a treat than a clutch. There's also a new ambush hitting feature where you can cheat towards inside or outside pitches, making it easier to hit on the side you choose and harder on the side you don't. I like it in theory, though I've ultimately had more success staying neutral, and so I only rarely use it. Hitting overall still feels great, though something seems off about perfect contact. You still get the same satisfying crack of the bat, but it feels like the vast majority of the time it results in a hard hit out or just a single, which is way too little payoff for what should be the best possible hits. Hopefully that gets adjusted over time. Franchise, where you get to take control of your favorite team and right the wrongs of ownership, is pretty similar to last year. The custom game entry, which lets you auto-simulate games until high-leverage situations come up and you opt into taking control, remains one of my favorite features. The way you offer free agents contracts has been overhauled this year. You now prioritize a small selection of targets and you accumulate interest from them as days pass. It does a great job of simplifying the free agent process, and I like the strategy around deciding between joining the pursuit of marquee free agents versus rounding out my roster. Road to the Show, where you take control of your own custom ball player as they lead up to and eventually enter the major league, is where you'll find some of the larger changes year over year, and they do a fantastic job of reinvigorating the mode. Unlike previous years, where you participate in the combine before being drafted into the league, now you begin as an amateur all the way back in high school. It's brief, but playing out the end of senior year and trying to impress scouts and recruiters while you chase a championship is a fun twist. The other big change is to how players are upgraded. Previous iterations of the show had a use-it-to-improve-it model, sort of like in an Elder Scrolls RPG, where success with specific actions like hitting against left-handed pitchers or throwing strikes with specific pitches slowly raised those particular attributes. That's now replaced by a token system where you get points to allocate. It might sound like a subtle difference, but it massively changes how you develop as a player. Diamond Dynasty, the live service corner of the show, where you gather players via card collecting to form your baseball team, is back with a few excellent changes of its own. First, sets and seasons, where cards were only usable during a specific time frame before being retired in most modes, is officially over, and I am so glad for that. Some great cards are rewarded for grinding through multifaceted programs, and it never seemed worth putting in the work for players that were going to be forced to the bench eventually. Now, if you go through the effort to get the top-tier Roger Clemens card from his program, for example, you get to keep it, earn XP to upgrade it, and let your favorites be cornerstones of your team. It's a very, very good change. The other big update is the inclusion of a new single-player mode called Diamond Quest, which is sort of like a roguelite-inspired board game. It sounds strange, but honestly, it's a pretty fun way to play. MLB The Show remains one of the best sports series around. The new upgrade system and the amateur portion of your player's journey have reinvigorated Road to the Show, while the shift away from sets and seasons has righted Diamond Dynasty's biggest wrong. While it's a bit of a bummer that the storylines feature isn't living up to its full potential, it remains a worthwhile and important inclusion that has reached beyond the game of baseball. All the small touches, such as updated infielder reactions and new quick-time events like the swim move, have the on-field action in a great place, too. It's not always easy for an annual franchise to justify the move to a new entry, but in the case of MLB The Show 25, it does more than enough to make me glad it's arrived. MLB The Show 25's IGN score? 9 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest MLB The Show 25 updates, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.